Welcome to Our New Story, a podcast exploring the lives and voices of New Health employees in the heart of rural Northeastern Washington. Join us as we delve into their experiences, from navigating the unique challenges and rewards of rural healthcare to discovering the joys of living and working in this vibrant community. Every episode is a chance to connect with the people behind the scenes, hear their stories, and learn what makes New Health truly special. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Our New Stories. I'm your host, Jacob Daving, and I'm super excited about our guest today, Dr. Mike Maxwell, CEO of North Olympic Healthcare Network, a community health center serving Port Angeles, Washington. Dr. Maxwell is also our keynote speaker for New Health's 2023 All-Staff event. Dr. Maxwell, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure to be here, Jacob.
Wonderful. So I was told that you completed your family medicine residency through the University of Washington in Spokane. So you are quite the local to Eastern Washington.
It feels like a bit of a homecoming. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did my medical school in Seattle, University of Washington. And when I was looking for different residencies, Spokane was top of my list because it offered a scope of training that you couldn't get in some of the larger urban areas. So in family medicine, you want to get as broad of experience as you can get. You want to see as much as you can in those 3 years. And coming to Spokane has fewer medical trainees than the Seattle corridor. And so it was really attractive for that reason. Plus, it was actually a nice town. It's a great part of the country. And so I was fortunate to end up there for my training.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. And can you tell us a bit about your experiences during that residency?
Yeah, so that was back in 1988 is when I started that residency. And it was a group of 6 of us per year. And I remember just being an ideal training situation. Got experience with for me, it was important to do OB. I want to do high-risk OB. I want to be able to do C-sections. And that was one of the few residencies that can train you to do that.
Okay.
So I got the full spectrum of inpatient, outpatient care, OB, I had minor surgery, had just an excellent training experience, and it prepared me well for my practice afterwards.
Wow, that's amazing. And did you find anything specific about Eastern Washington or Spokane in general that really stood out for you?
Other than just being a great place to live, it was my son was born there. We lived actually just up above Manitou Park.
Okay,
and my son
beautiful area.
Born at Deaconess. So it's always going to stand out in my mind as where my first child was born.
Yeah.
But that was just remember being a great community to be in, to live that part of my life, and to be able to have the kind of training experience I had.
Wonderful. And did you always see yourself going into a family medicine residency, or what does that look like for you growing up?
It's a little odd. I was an oddball for lots of reasons. From the time I was 4 years old, I said I wanted to be a doctor.
Wow.
Now obviously my reasons for that probably changed from the time I was 4 till I was adult. But it was always my dream, and it was always primary care. And I'm going to reference that in my remarks this afternoon. Is my kind of model was Marcus Welby.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're probably too young to know who Marcus Welby was.
I'm not going to lie to the viewers. I do not.
It's an old show that was on the 60s and 70s where it's a family doc. He just kind of worked out of his home, and it was just always he seemed to always have the right answers. He was kind to patients, and I just kind of aspired to be that. And he was the general practitioner at that time over family medicine is what it became, and that's what I wanted to do. And I was on a beeline, and was fortunate to be able to have that dream come true.
Yeah. Wow. And I feel like you don't see that a lot where people are 4 years old and they already know their dream. So that's pretty amazing. And you stuck to it, and look at you now, you made the dream come true. Yeah. So that is so amazing to see.
I've been very fortunate. It's been better than I could have imagined. It was obviously and tougher than I would imagine, but it's been just a rewarding career.
Yeah. So let's back it up a little bit. Before your residency, were you always a Washington local, or kind of what's your
Oh,
backstory?
yeah. I was born and raised in Boise.
Boise,
Yeah.
Idaho.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I lived for a short time in California, but mostly born and raised there. And decided when I left for college, I wanted to go to Seattle.
Okay.
I wanted to get out of Idaho and see something different, and end up in Seattle. Did my pre-med at Seattle University, and then medical school at University of Washington.
Okay. So then Seattle University, University of Washington, you graduate from that residency. Can you kind of talk me through the next few years of your life after residency?
Yeah, it was um, pretty linear still.
Okay.
I remember being in medical school, and my wife was in nursing school at the time, and we would get like one weekend off a month where we could go do something, and we'd try and go someplace we could drive in a day and check out just to be in. One of the places I went was Port Angeles.
Okay.
And I remember clearly staying there on the beach with my wife, and just looking at the beach, looking at the mountains behind us, thinking, this would be a nice place to live. I just, in the back of my mind, never having any idea that's where I'd end up.
Okay.
When I was finishing my third year residency, that's usually when you start looking at practice opportunities. And I'll talk a little bit about today. My remarks is at that time, the dominant practice model was private practice.
Yes.
And the decision was, do you do solo or do you join a partnership? And I did not want to be a solo, so I was looking at partnerships. And it just so happens that one of my wife's nursing student friends was working out in Forks, Washington.
Okay.
And that about the opposite in the state as you can get from Chihuahua. And
yes.
She was pregnant, and she was getting her care at the practice in Port Angeles I ended up joining. She happened just to mention to my wife that her physician was looking for a new partner. Wow. And so I said, I remember Port Angeles. I like that place. So I called them up, and came out and spent a month just to check it out. And I loved it, loved the town, and thought, okay, this is the breadth of practice. And that's important. When you finish your training, you're trained to do a lot of things, especially in primary care. And you can't practice that scope of care in every community. You have to find, because of turf battles and so forth. And Port Angeles was one of those communities where primary care physicians could practice their full breadth. And so that was a big attraction for me.
Yeah.
I went there and liked it and became a partner. So I went right from medical school to residency to Port Angeles, and that's where I've been ever since.
Wow. That is amazing. So, and how long have you been in Port Angeles?
Just 33 years. 32 years. Yeah.
33. Okay. So, and I was told that over time, you kind of took this private practice and you turned it into a nonprofit. Can you walk me through your decision process and your thoughts through that?
Yeah, it was the evolution of medical practice over those 30 years changed quite a bit. As I mentioned, it was private practice was a dominant model back in the early 90s. And just with each successive decade, there was less and less attraction for that model. Physicians finishing residency were not interested in the economic risk. You have a lot of variability in your income. You don't know month to month. There's a lot of work running a business. And, we're not trained to be business people as physicians. So you have to learn the business. You have to learn how to do it well. You have a lot of responsibility for things outside of medicine. And there was just less and less interest over the years. And by 2014, I went from being the junior partner in 91 to the senior partner in 2014 because there were retirements and relocations and some illness. So we have these shrinking number of providers and all the patients to take care of. And we were having great difficulty in finding new physicians who were interested in coming and joining that model.
Okay.
And so our community, we were one of the major primary care providers in the community at the time, still are. But we were simply unable to take on new patients. And it was heartbreaking to turn people away.
Yeah.
And so we got together with my other 4 other partners at the time, and we just had to come to the realization that this model, we had a decision point. We could either just ride it out, take care of the people we're taking care of, turn everyone else away, and just ride the practice out till we retired, or we could do something different. And we decided that we really need to try and step up for the community, and our model was not the one that's going to make it work. So we had been familiar with the health center model for some time, and we decided that we wanted to pursue that. And it just so happened that the opportunity came up in 2014 for one of these new Access Point grants, and we applied, and we're successful.
Wow. Well, I have to say that is an amazing story to hear. And you don't hear a lot of things like this, private practices turning into nonprofits. So it really does sound, though, like the community needed this.
Yep.
So you guys were willing to kind of give up that control and provide the community with that.
That was the driver. And we basically put ourselves out of a job as owners. And we were okay with that because we were really, the community needed that. And we just felt it was important to do. And it's been gratifying to see that since making that transition, we've been able to achieve the goals we set out to do. We were turning away thousands of people before we became a health center because we just didn't have the workforce to do it. But with making this change to the health center model, been much more attractive for bringing new providers. The National Service Corps loan repayment incentives help. Just having that mission makes a difference. Yeah. And also we established a residency. So we wanted to train family docs and hopefully have them stay in the community. And so with that, we brought in 20 new physicians and APCs to the community, and we've taken on 12,000 new patients in the past.
That is amazing. Years. That is amazing to hear.
So that's been the gratifying thing for me. Our goal is that everyone has a place for care. And in this model, we can make that happen.
Okay. Amazing. So, and some of our viewers may not be, aware of Port Angeles. So can you kind of explain what that location's like, the population, things like that to us?
Yeah. It's about far opposite the stage you can get from here.
Yes.
I told Desiree, I consider us sisters of different geographic mothers. We're as far northwest as you can get without getting wet. And it's a rural community. It's very similar in a lot of ways. We are rural. Our population base, our service area is pretty similar.
Okay.
The size of our health center, number of patients is similar. New Health is a little bit bigger. It's been around longer, but it's quite a similarity that way. And our payer mix is very similar. Same with our scope. But it's isolated. You guys are a little isolated at this corner of the state. Yeah. Nobody passes through Port Angeles unless they're on the way to Victoria or to the Twilight Vampires and Forks. Okay. So we are. There's just one road that leads out to Port Angeles. That's Highway 101, and we're pretty isolated. So we have to take care of ourselves. What you guys do out here.
Okay. Perfect. I love to hear that. So now kind of transitioning, Dr. Maxwell is going to be the keynote speaker at 2023's All Staff event, as we mentioned before. And we are so excited to have you there. So I know you like to speak a bit on happiness. Now, can you speak a bit about your work-life harmony philosophy to me?
Yeah, that's I can't take credit for that conceptual change. I read this article in New England Journal of Medicine maybe a couple of years ago, where the author kind of pointed this out, and it was an aha moment for me. And we talk about work-life balance, and that's and I know it's very important for especially the current generation of people and providers. But the trouble with that concept is it is inherently oppositional. Okay. It's a setup for unhappiness, because what it says is that work comes at the expense of your life, or life comes at the expense of work. That they're inherently, if there's this balance, then it's oppositional, and that's really kind of a maladaptive mental construct. It's better to think of work and life as being integrated, that they're both part of who you are. We, at least I'm admittedly a boomer. And so my concepts on work may be a little bit different than others, but work is not a 4-letter word. It is, but it's not. And it's, it has for me brought meaning and value. As I get philosophical, as I get this, phase of my life, and I'd like to feel like I've done something besides just consume oxygen. And this work in particular gives us this opportunity to do something really meaningful for people, and not to be resentful for it, but to realize, okay, this is part of who I am. It's part of what I do, but it's also part of who I am. Is I'm a caregiver. I'm caring for other people, and that brings meaning and value. And it is what I'll end with on my remarks today is that meaning gives us wholeness as humans, and that's ultimately that wholeness that should bring us happiness. And so that, think of work-life integration as a way to pursue happiness.
Wow. Okay. I love that. And I've never quite heard that perspective before. And now that you mention it, that makes total sense to me. It's not a give and a take. We can accept it all and make it meaningful and enjoy it all.
I feel really fortunate. I try and make sure all my staff at North Olympic that I talk about these concepts and want to make sure they all feel empowered, that they all feel important because they are. Yeah. And I grew up in a generation where the physician was all physician centric, and that was counterproductive. And I think it was better to understand that everyone plays this critical role. And I can tell you, I told my staff this many times that no matter what, I can do the best care in that room with the patient, but if they have a bad experience on the way in, on the way out, they're not going to feel cared for.
Yeah.
And likewise, I may not fully meet their needs in the room, but if they had a great interaction from the first time they called to the checked in, way out, interacted with the MAs, the PSRs, they're going to feel, okay, I feel cared about. And so it's everyone it's a team sport. Everyone's critical.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Everyone can play their role. Everyone can find meaning in it. Yes. I love it. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Maxwell, for joining us. I think we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode at that today. So thank you again for joining us. I so look forward to your keynote speech later today at New Health's 2023 all-staff event. And yes, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Jake. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you.